Ever had that feeling where you are just completely exhausted, but at the same time, you're so keyed up you can't relax? That's what we're talking about today. We're going to decode the real biology behind why so many of us are running on fumes, but just can't seem to switch off.
I mean, does this hit home for you? You've crushed a demanding day, you are physically spent, you finally get into bed, and boom, your brain decides now is the perfect time to review every email you sent, rehearse a conversation for tomorrow, and worry about something from 3 years ago. It's maddening, right? And it's an incredibly common feeling.
So what do? We tell ourselves to just push through it, be more disciplined, have a better mindset. But it feels like you're just throwing gasoline on a fire. The more you try to wrestle control, the more wired and somehow even more exhausted you become. So what is actually going on inside our bodies? Okay, let's get into it. The real reason you're so exhausted has nothing to do with a lack of willpower. It all comes down to your body's central command center for stress. So for years, we've all heard this term adrenal fatigue, right? The idea was that our little adrenal glands just get overworked and, tired. But it turns out that's not really the story. The problem isn't the glands themselves. It's the communication line from the brain that's gotten all scrambled. The real issue, the one we need to understand, is something called HPA axis dysfunction. So what on earth is the HPA axis? Well, think of it like your body's super smart thermostat for stress. It's this constant, beautiful feedback loop between three main players: the hypothalamus and the pituitary gland up in your brain, and then the adrenal glands that sit on top of your kidneys. Their whole job is to manage your stress response and keep everything in balance. And here's a look at how it's supposed to work. Your hypothalamus, the sensor, perceives some kind of stress. And this could be anything: a work deadline, a tense conversation, or even just skipping a meal. It sends a message to the pituitary gland, which then acts like a dispatcher, telling the adrenal glands, hey, we need some cortisol down here. In a healthy system, this is a perfect self-regulating loop that turns on and, crucially, turns back off. But when that loop gets stuck in the on position because of chronic stress, you get this really confusing mix of symptoms. Sometimes your system is pumping out way too much cortisol when it should be winding down, and that's the wired feeling you get at midnight, complete with anxiety and irritability. But other times, the system gets so worn out that it under-responds, leaving you with that deep, profound fatigue, brain fog, and just feeling run down. You're basically living in both states at once. And this is exactly why just thinking positive doesn't work. You can't think your way out of a physical communication problem. To fix this, we have to start with the body. We need a body-first solution. This right here, this is the key to everything. You can repeat affirmations all day long, telling yourself, I'm safe, I'm calm, but if your body is physically tense, your jaw is clenched, and your breathing is shallow, your nervous system is still screaming danger. Safety has to be felt in the body. It's a physical sensation. And that leads us to the core principle of recovery. We have to send new signals of safety, directly to the nervous system through the body. Once your body gets the memo that the tiger is gone and the threat is over, then and only then can your mind finally relax and let go of those racing thoughts. Okay, so let's get practical. Here's something you can literally do right now. It's called the exhale reset. The magic isn't complicated. It's all in the longer exhale. When you exhale longer than you inhale, you're manually activating your parasympathetic nervous system. That's your body's built-in rest and digest mode. It's a simple, incredibly powerful way to hit the brakes on the stress cycle in just 60 seconds. All right, now let's talk about what's going on in your head, because those critical, anxious thoughts, they aren't your enemy. They're actually part of your inner survival code. They're what we can call your protectors. This is a total game changer. That harsh voice in your head isn't a sign that you're broken. It's a primitive and frankly outdated protective mechanism. It learned a long time ago that if it criticizes you, pushes you, and attacks you first, it might protect you from the pain of being rejected or failing publicly. It's a survival strategy, not a personal flaw. So do any of these characters sound familiar? You've got the hustler, always telling you you're falling behind, or the judge, who says nothing is ever good enough, and the perfectionist, who promises that if you can just be flawless, no one can ever hurt you. When you start to see these as subtypes, as strategies, you can separate them from your true self. So knowing all this, how do we actually rebuild? How do we get out of this burnout cycle? Well, it boils down to a clear 3-step path to recovery. And here is the framework. It's so logical when you see it laid out. Step 1 is to regulate. You have to start with the body, using tools like those resets to create a foundation of physical safety. Only when you're calmer can you move to step 2, which is to rewire. This is where you can start to address those outdated mental patterns. And finally, you redesign your life, your habits, and your boundaries to build a life that actually sustains you instead of constantly draining you.
So what's the goal of all this? It's not to stop achieving. It's to find a totally new way to achieve. It's about becoming a regulated high achiever.
I mean, just look at this contrast. On one side, you have the high-functioning anxious person. They're running on a cocktail of fear, urgency, and adrenaline. Yeah, it gets results, but the cost is enormous. On the other side, you have the regulated high achiever. They are just as effective, often they're more effective, but their fuel is totally different. It's clarity, steady focus, and even self-compassion. It's performance without the panic. And that really leaves us with a final question to think about. We spend so much of our lives focused on the what, the next goal, the next promotion. But what if the greatest, most profound achievement you could ever unlock isn't another thing you do, but a fundamental shift in how you are? Moving from survival mode to a state of calm, centered presence. Just imagine what you could build from that place.